Okay. And I just want you to introduce you to Debbie Thompson. Here she is. You kind of heard about her through my email, or if I've met you in real life, we've been chatting about her. She's awesome. And I'll just let her take it away so we can get started.
Well, thanks, Leanne. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me to teach folks about gut health. You know, that's my big passion, and I'm really excited to share it. Shall I go ahead and share my screen now?
Yes, I think you can.
Okay.
I have like all the things disabled on my Zooms.
Okay, let's see if I can get this from the beginning.
There we go.
Okay. Here. Okay, here we go. Can you see that okay?
I can. Can you other gals see it okay?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, cool. Because I'm going to mute myself right now.
Okay, so the title of my talk, do you have the guts to be healthy? My name is Debbie Thompson. I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and I'm certified in helping people heal. And I really focus on the gut. So my story is that my son got sick a while ago, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. And I consulted many doctors and practitioners and therapies and spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to figure out what was wrong. And it all came back to his gut. And so I made it my mission to educate as many people as I could about gut health, because I think this is something that we all have control over. And then when we know enough about it and can take care of our gut, we can take care of our health. So what is gut health? Well, the gut, when I talk about the gut, I'm referring to your entire digestive system, which starts at your mouth and ends at your butt. But for me, your gut function actually starts in your brain. And why is gut health important? This is what we're going to talk about for this section. So an overview of the digestive system and what I call the gut. So it starts in your mouth and includes the mouth, stomach, small intestines, and includes liver, gallbladder, pancreas, and the large intestines. And as I mentioned earlier, I focus on the brain too. And why is that?
Can you repeat that, Debbie? You said, you went over kind of like what the gut consisted of, but you said the gut health actually starts at the what?
I think it starts at the brain.
The brain. Okay, thank you.
The reason for that is when we'll go over that later too, but when we think about food, when you hear, see it, smell it, our body starts to do certain things to prepare for digestion. And our brain also releases hormones to aid in that digestion. And when we're stressed, and most of us feel our stress when we think about things, many of us do anyway, that hampers digestion. And then we go down to the mouth where we chew our food. We want to break it down to smaller pieces. And that activates our saliva and enzymes to help us digest our food. Then we go to the stomach. And that's our first line of defense against microbes and bad things that enter our bodies through our mouth, nose, ears, and eyes even. Things that end up going down our throat into our stomach have to be dealt with somewhere, and they're dealt within our stomach through our stomach acid. And so that starts to kill a lot of the bad bugs. It helps break down our foods. It sanitizes the contents. And without enough stomach acid, we can struggle with poor digestion. Then we go down to the small intestines, and I include the liver, gallbladder, and the pancreas. In the small intestines, we break down our foods further, and this is where we absorb our nutrients. And it is also the location of our immune sensors, are called the Peyer's patches. This is where our body actually sends out signals to figure out if something is not supposed to be there, and alarms our body to mount a defense. And then our large intestines. We think of our large intestines as where we hold our poop, but this is actually the house or the home of most of our gut microbiome that supports many of our functions, especially our immune functions. It also makes a lot of hormones, neurotransmitters, and vitamins. And this is where we also remove our toxins. So why is gut health important? So the positive reasons why gut health is important is because with a healthy gut, we can absorb our nutrients. And so, even if we're eating all these great healthy foods, if our gut's not working right, we're not going to absorb all those nutrients. It helps our brain work properly. because as we'll discuss later, the gut and brain are connected. And then it supports our immunity. 70% of your immune system is in your gut. And so if your gut's not healthy, it will be very hard for you to maintain a strong immune system. True or false? Your gut function starts at your butt.
Anyone answer? Anyone answer? What'd you say?
Yes. I'm just kidding. No. Well, she said it started in the brain.
I said, Fatis, are you listening? No.
So that's false. That's correct. It starts in your brain. Okay. So let's talk about how your brain impacts your gut health. Through your brain, we experience life through our 5 senses. We see, smell, taste, touch, and hear. You know, when we hear a sizzling steak on the grill, when we smell mom's cooking, or our own cooking, our saliva starts to flow, our digestive system starts to work. Number 2, chronic stress affects proper digestion and absorption of nutrients. When we're stressed all the time, when we're so busy that we can't relax, we impact our digestion, and it makes it very difficult to absorb our nutrients. So here's a tip. Prepare your brain to eat by slowing down. Avoid distractions, take time to smell your food and chew your food well, and be in a calm state while eating. So we want to avoid, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was going to tell
avoid
you.
screens, right? Get off the screens, stop driving when you're eating, slow down.
Yeah, she scolds me all the time. What is the thing you're always telling me when I eat?
Slow down and chew your food well.
She's always like, every time I come back with a symptom, she's like, did you chew your food good? And I was like, well, I think I did. I didn't swallow it whole. Can you tell me what I don't know, what is it, a mantra that you tell me how I should chew my food?
Yes, we should drink our solids and chew our liquids. And so pretty much.
It's hard, dude. I can't.
I know it's hard. Do your best.
Okay.
But I think from many of us, we rush sometimes because we're so busy. We're trying to go between tasks. So we, wolf down our food, but we really need to slow down. Not only because we need to break it down better, but because we need to be in a calm state. So the energy that we have goes toward digestion and not to the stress. Okay, so the gut-brain connection. There is a connection between your gut and your brain. And I'm not sure if many of you hear it. It's in the news a lot nowadays, the gut-brain axis. There's an actual connection. The vagus nerve connects your brain to your gut and to many organs in your body. So there is an actual connection. So how your gut impacts your brain. So we're going a little bit backward, right? We were talking about how the brain impacts our gut. Now we're going to go, well, the gut also impacts your brain. See, a troubled gut, what I call a dysbiotic gut, or something that's not doing well, it will send signals to your brain, and it causes a lot of stress. There are classic brain issues related to gut imbalance, like anxiety and depression, and even dementia. So the tip is to make sure you're providing your brain with enough well-digested healthy foods for the energy it needs. We need to properly digest our foods. We need to make sure our gut's working right so that our brain will work properly too. So true or false? All stress is bad stress. That's actually false. I don't want anybody to walk away from here saying you can't have any stress because you won't digest your food. A little bit is necessary. That's part of life, and it's actually pretty good for the body to handle a little stress, once in a while. But chronic stress that just doesn't go away, ends up affecting our digestion and our immune system. So we really need to be careful about that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there a hard line definition on chronic stress? Because some people will think chronic stress and they'll think like, well, chronic stress is like years and years of stress. Other people might say, well, chronic stress is, I have a 3-month project deadline and that's, chronic stress. Other people might think, so what is the rule of thumb for that?
I think for everyone, it's different. Some people can take a lot of stress and their bodies are not impacted by it. And some people can't take any stress at all. We can go into psychology. That's going to be a different issue. But from my perspective, if you go a day without being able to wind down, at least to relax, if you have trouble sleeping, if you have indigestion and issues with your stomach, you probably have more stress than you should. And,
Okay.
it's just being really conscientious about monitoring it and recognizing that, yeah, you've got projects. We have projects that we want to get done, and we might spend weeks or, even months at a time on the project. But we need to wind down on a daily basis and really check ourselves. Be more aware of how your body is doing. Are you sleeping well? Are you well rested? Do you have any stomach issues? Those are kind of a couple of things that I notice with my clients, that they have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, or that they're always complaining that their stomach's bothering them. That's a
Got
sign
it.
probably that you got too much stress.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to summarize this part, gut health is important to wellness. It takes more guts than you think. 70% of your immune system is in your gut. We want to relax when we're eating. And digestion is a process requiring the proper function of many organs. And so I didn't go over that earlier, but your liver, gallbladder, and pancreas also are critical to good gut function. Brain function affects gut function, and vice versa. Gut function affects brain function. And when you have gut health, you have immune strength. Okay, so here's one of my favorites. This is a common thing that happens with my clients. You mean I'm supposed to poop every day? And they said, yes. If you don't poop every day, you're constipated. And that's a problem in itself. So let's talk about some common gut issues that are not normal. So the first one, constipation, bloating, and acid reflux, or the symptom of acid reflux, which is heartburn, or it's diagnosed as GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. Start with constipation. Constipation is having less than one bowel movement a day, or having hard or difficult to pass stools. So constipation is a big issue because when you're not moving your bowels on a regular basis, it's causing some congestion in that. It can cause a lot more illness and toxicity in your body if you're not moving regularly. So what's the big deal, right? The toxin in your body, when you have poop in your body, you have toxins in your body. And it's probably not a good idea to keep it in your body for too long. So that's why you need to get it out. And pathogens thrive. So the longer you hold on to your poop, the more pathogenic bacteria and different kinds of organisms can start to grow and flourish in your gut. Bowel habits. Sometimes people will say, well, I only go twice a week or something like that. And your body gets used to that. And you don't want it to get used to that because that will lead to illness. And then if you're stuck, if you're constipated, that's often a sign that there's a disease process that's starting. So you want to take care of that. You want to make sure you go on a regular basis. So how do you reduce constipation? You drink more water, you can eat more fiber. You got to make it a habit. And then if you still need help, you can use probiotics and digestive enzymes. You can even use some things to help you go. But if I wouldn't recommend things like laxatives, because then your body becomes dependent on it. And you really want to be able to do that on your own.
Can you give a recommendation about what you would suggest for ideal fiber intake per day?
20 to 30 grams of fiber, which is a lot.
20 to 30 grams. Some of the gals on the call, they track their macros, and some of that gives us the fiber intake. So I'm just curious. So what's the sweet spot? Okay.
Yeah. And that's a lot of fiber. And the other thing is you want to get it from a variety of sources, because your gut bugs in your microbiome, they like different kinds of food. And so if we're just getting our fiber from, say, broccoli and cauliflower or some vegetables, but we're not getting it from some mushrooms and even some dairy things, then you might proliferate different kinds of bacteria in your gut, and that causes an imbalance. So I'm not trying to overcomplicate things, but I think shooting for that fiber number is a good thing to do, but trying to they say eat the rainbow, right? Eat a variety of foods in different colors and vary that. Don't have the same thing every single day.
Okay, got it.
The next one is bloating. So bloating is a sensation of gassiness. I feel gassy. Sorry about that. Trapped gas or a feeling of your abdomen being distended or swelling. I think most of us can understand what that is. And what I tell my clients is, well, here it says it's the food, it's not the food. From my experience, bloating, I'm trying to move my box here, the Zoom box. It's due to a dysbiotic gut. You don't have what you need in your gut to help process and digest your foods. And how do I usually explain this? Well, when I was a kid, I could eat almost anything, right? And most of my clients could have done too. And then all of a sudden, in their 40s and 50s, they can't eat apples, or they can't have chocolate, or they react to a certain kind of vegetable. And if there's something that just started to happen or has happened recently, it's probably not the food, it's probably your ability to digest that food. And so I try to emphasize that we need to make sure we have enough of those good microbes and enzymes. As we age, after the age of 40, our bodies don't make the digestive enzymes as much as they used to. And not only that, our diets are not filled with the nutrients that help provide and help us make these enzymes. And so as we get older, we tend to see more what we call food sensitivities, or inability to handle these foods, when it's not the food itself, it's the gut. And also, we really don't want to stop eating those foods that are nutritious. And that's usually what happens as people start to eliminate foods. They're usually eliminating the vegetables first, which is something that we really want to keep in our diet. So my example is an unhealthy gut. So you eat broccoli and you have an unhealthy gut and you end up with some bloating. But if you have a healthy gut, then you eat healthy food and you have a lot more energy and you feel much better. Okay, so how do we reduce bloating? Well, if you are experiencing bloating due to certain foods, you want to temporarily avoid those foods. And then you want to determine what's causing it. Is it the difficulty breaking down the foods? Is it SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth? Is it liver congestion? There are many reasons why people have bloating, and it's important to figure out why. And then you can supplement with probiotics and digestive enzymes. In this case, the digestive enzymes are much more important when you want to relieve bloating. Lastly, acid reflux. That's stomach acid that regurgitates or comes upward into the esophagus. There are many reasons for this. I had a long list. I decided not to include it because it's quite complicated what causes acid reflux. But what I do recommend, if you don't have an ulcer or any known stomach injury, you can try to supplement with apple cider vinegar or lemon juice with your meals to see if that helps. Because acid reflux is often, not always, but often the result of a low stomach acid, not high stomach acid. And what happens is the food, because there's not enough stomach acid, it ferments and it creates a lot of gas. And then you start to create some pressure on that valve above your stomach, and that releases the contents into the esophagus. So you want more acid. Usually you can also take betaine hydrochloride, which is something to help increase the acid in your stomach, and it helps to break down foods. You can also supplement with IgG, which is immunoglobulins, and that helps to detox the bacteria and heal the lining, because sometimes with acid reflux, we have some damage that we need to take care of.
I have a quick question. So if you think you have acid reflux, are you like, so, I guess that, I grew up with my dad always having acid reflux, and he would drink tons of bottles of Pepto-Bismol, Mylanta, and pop Alka-Seltzer. So that was all bad.
Oh yeah. Well, for the first thing that we discussed earlier is if you don't have enough stomach acid, you're breaking down that first line of defense that helps to kill the microbes that are coming down your throat. So that's one thing. The other thing is that you're not breaking down your foods well enough. And so you have partially undigested foods going into your gastrointestinal system, and it can create damage.
So I guess
Often,
people's misperception is that if you have acid reflux, you have too much stomach acid.
yes, because
But you're saying it's the opposite.
it can be. For some people, they actually do have an excess, but for most, it's probably not the case.
Wow.
So I
That's
think I have a note about antacids and proton pump inhibitors. So stomach acid is critical to digestion and sanitizing of the gut. You know, sometimes for relief, we can temporarily use antacids or PPIs, just so that we get some relief. But the
what are
chronic use,
PPIs? What are the
proton pump inhibitors are like omeprazole. What is that other? Not the purple pill, but they have.
they're prescriptions?
They're no longer prescriptions. I've seen them in the
Oh.
drugstores. You can get them over the counter
Oh,
now.
like Prilosec or something?
Prilosec and was it Zantac?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're actually not recommended for long-term use. So people, you know, because it's providing them relief, tend to use it and not stop using it because they feel more comfortable. But the chronic use of antacids and PPIs are associated with serious bowel diseases. There's a correlation between PPI use, proton pump inhibitor use, and Crohn's or irritable bowel diseases.
I know, fuckers. No.
Okay, so let's go on to the gut, the bad and the ugly. Diseases of the gut. So when we usually talk about gut problems and gut diseases, we're looking at irritable bowel syndrome with or without, with diarrhea or with constipation, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, and celiac disease. But I want to kind of turn the focus away from these because these are more, you know, common because I want to focus on what our gut health and eating and all these other things support, in addition to eliminating or minimizing the chance that you'll have some of these diseases. I have a slide here for celiac disease, just an FYI. You know, celiac disease is known as gluten sensitivity, and it's considered genetic. But there's also non-celiac gluten sensitivity. And so for folks that are sensitive to gluten with celiac disease, they have a lot of inflammation and injury in their gut. But with the non-celiac gluten sensitivity, gluten causes inflammation in the brain. And so you may not know it, but people do have, you know, when you start to have some serious brain conditions or complaints, you might want to eliminate gluten. Okay, so let's talk about gut imbalances and leaky gut.
Wait, brain complaints like brain fog or forgetfulness or stuff like that, you mean?
Exactly, brain fog, forgetfulness, even moodiness, anxiety, depression type of symptoms, things where you feel like, oh, my brain's not working right, difficulty remembering things. Even when people talk about, oh, I'm just getting older, I forget where I left my keys, or I came into the room and I forgot where something was. That's not always, you know, I wouldn't just automatically count it to getting older. I believe our brains are supposed to work quite well until we're no longer here.
So we
Okay.
die then. So we die.
Yes,
you
yeah.
think.
Mhm.
And that's from the gut health.
A lot of it has to do with your gut health. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, yeah, we're going to see some deteriorations here and there. We get a little bit weaker. Maybe your brain's not as sharp as it used to be, but we shouldn't be complaining that it's just not working because we're older.
Okay.
Dysbiotic gut and lipopolysaccharides, LPS. So let's go. Gut dysbiosis or an imbalanced gut. So our gut contains a lot of different bacteria and virus and fungus. But When you're looking at the bacteria, the two largest species are the firmicutes or firmicutes, depending on who you talk to, and the Bacteroidetes. And we needed more Bacteroidetes than firmicutes. When folks start to have more firmicutes, which is usually the result of eating too much protein, but an imbalance here, more firmicutes can result in gaining weight. So the firmicutes are known calorie harvesters. So if you have many of them in your gut, they harvest calories very efficiently, and they can help retain weight. So you want more Bacteroidetes if your goal is to eliminate some weight. Oh, here's my example. Okay, I'm going to give you an example of antibiotics. So here we go. Imagine you have a house and you have a rat problem, a really big rat problem. And so you call the exterminator, or you don't. You decide instead of calling the exterminator to just, catch one or two rats, you're going to just burn the house down and get rid of them all. Well, that sounds ridiculous, right? Well, that's kind of how I look at antibiotics. When you're using them frequently and it's not for something life-threatening, when you take antibiotics, it's like bombing your gut. And the unfortunate thing is you might get rid of the bacteria that you were trying to get rid of, but you're also getting rid of the good bacteria also. And when the gut is injured like this, what tends to happen is the bad guys come back faster than the good guys. And so often we see that chronic use of antibiotics results in frequent recurring infections. So gut dysbiosis, an imbalanced gut, may result in ADHD, anxiety, athlete's foot, autism, depression, ear infections, hypertension, obesity, schizophrenia, and urinary tract infections. So let's talk about lipopolysaccharides. I'm not trying to make this a real sciencey thing, but I think it's important for us to know what LPS is. LPS is actually a normal part of digestion, and it's part of some of the certain types of bacteria. And as we digest the foods in our stomach, these bacteria get broken down and these lipopolysaccharides are released. The problem is when we have a leaky gut, the lipopolysaccharides get through the gut lining and into our bloodstream. I think I have here. And that becomes what we call endotoxemia, and that's the presence of bacterial toxins in the bloodstream. So we want to keep them in. It's like, having a prison. We want to keep the lipopolysaccharides in the prison. But when the bars, the prison bars are open and there's a gap, these lipopolysaccharides can get out and into your bloodstream, create endotoxemia. And I'm not sure if this sounds familiar, but when you have bacteria, when you have toxins in your bloodstream, it also sounds like sepsis, right? Endotoxemia is considered a mild form of sepsis, which is a lot more serious, but endotoxemia is still serious nevertheless. So what's the research is showing that endotoxemia may cause allergies, cancer, diabetes, eczema, kidney disease, autoimmune diseases, including lupus, arthritis, Hashimoto's, because Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and multiple sclerosis. So how can you optimize your gut? So let's talk about simple ways to support a healthy gut and a healthy you. So how do we build a healthy gut? We want to minimize or avoid antibacterial soaps and cleaners, antibiotics, glyphosate, and excess protein and fat consumption. Let's talk about the antibacterial soaps and cleaners. I have to remember that your gut microbiome contains over 30 trillion bacteria. And when you use antibacterial soaps and cleansers, you're often killing a lot of the bacteria in your environment, including those in your gut. So as much as possible, we don't want to use those kinds of cleaners. Antibiotics, there are times when antibiotics are necessary. But if you can avoid them, I would suggest that as much as possible you do. Now, if you do take antibiotics, I believe it's important for you to restore your gut by the consumption of the right probiotics. Glyphosate. Glyphosate is found in the herbicide Roundup. So it's sprayed in home gardens, it's sprayed on farms, and it's a crop desiccant. So to avoid glyphosate means not to use Roundup and those types of herbicides in your yard, and be aware of when you're in an environment that might have grass sprayed with glyphosate or Roundup, such as golf courses and playgrounds. Now, glyphosate is also used right after many grains are harvested, and it's sprayed on the grains as a desiccant to help dry them up so they don't grow mold. But what happens is that glyphosate ends up in your food, like cereals and your bread, your flours, and all those bread products. And the problem with glyphosate is it creates holes or leaky gut. And as we talked about earlier with lipopolysaccharide getting, while it's within your system, and if you don't have a leaky gut, that's not necessarily a problem. But when you do have a leaky gut, it can become a serious problem. So I always advise, have organic wheat products, organic grain products to avoid consuming this glyphosate.
Will that be an ingredient on the label that we look out for?
No,
It won't be on the label?
no. And it doesn't mean, just because it doesn't say organic wheat, it doesn't mean that there is glyphosate on it. But our country is a huge food processing country. And we process a lot of wheat, a lot of oats, a lot of grains, and it's an industrialized complex. And so to avoid it is a lot harder if you're not eating organic grains.
So that's the catch-all, is if you just want to be sure, you just buy organic grains.
Yes.
Okay.
and I might even say, stay away from wheat, period. But
Okay.
because that's what wheat, oat, barley, rye, those are the gluten products. And for some people, gluten's an issue too. So if you just eradicate, you take wheat off the table, it can heal a lot of people.
Got it.
Okay, excess proteins and fat. So not only if you consume excess proteins, do you imbalance your gut by giving, proliferating the firmicutes, the calorie harvesting bacteria, and gaining weight. But when we have more proteins, the gut bacteria can consume proteins. They love carbohydrates, but your gut bugs, they can eat protein too. But what happens is then their byproducts are ammonia, methane, and hydrogen sulfide gas. And so you end up with more of a toxic gut if you eat too much proteins. And for those of you, I don't know if you know anybody who farts and their farts smell like rotten eggs, that's hydrogen sulfide gas. So they're probably eating too much protein.
So is excess sort of, like you said, dependent on the person too and their body? What is excess? Is that 100 grams? Is that 200 grams?
I would say yes, it depends.
Depends. Okay.
Often, when you're looking at your macros, right, you're trying to keep them even.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a fine thing. That's a fine thing to do. I think
Okay.
they have to make sure though that they have enough carbohydrates in the form of fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, even beans if they can tolerate those things.
Right.
To help
Okay.
boost their microbiome.
Got it.
Okay, so tips to improve gut health, digestive system, lifestyle, and digestive support. Let's look at the digestive system. We talked about this earlier. So we want to make sure you don't have stress, or we minimize stress so that our brain is calm and we're relaxed when we eat. We make sure we chew our food well. We make sure we have enough stomach acid to break down the food. Our small intestines, liver, gallbladder, and pancreas are working properly. And our large intestines, you're going to the bathroom, you're having a bowel movement once a day at least. And we're eating all those good fiber to provide that microbiome what it needs to provide the things that we need. Right, minimize stress. And I just want to emphasize, when we have a lot of stress, that energy is is used to handle the stress, and it's taken away from digestion and immunity. So that's why when you hear people saying the stress made them sick, that's absolutely true. If you're too stressed out, your immune system is weakened and you have a higher likelihood that you're going to get sick too. Of course, we want to have good diet and good sleep and some exercise. It's really important that we have eat the rainbow, right? A varied foods to provide all the nutrition that we need. A good night's sleep, going to bed before 10, waking up no earlier than 5 if you can. We want to go up and down, sleep and fall asleep with the sun cycle if possible. So I know for most of us that's not, but as close to that as possible is great. But I think most importantly, as we get older, to have an uninterrupted sleep, to work on making sure that you sleep soundly and for the whole duration and not get up. And then some exercise. So if you need help with that, you see Leanne, right? And get outdoors, get in the dirt. That's where the microbes live. That's where we're, when you're looking at some of these newer products, fulvic and humic acids that they're using as natural sources of probiotics. Where are they getting it from? They're getting it from the dirt, right? That's where they live. And make sure you get out there, touch the dirt, go in the sand, get in the water, forest bathe, do something outdoors. So
What is forest bathing?
Walking in the forest, spending
like
time
naked?
reading. Yeah, there's such
No,
a thing.
not naked, right? You just barefoot.
Barefoot is great if you can. Naked if you want.
Maybe we have to make that a social event next time. Naked forest walking. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So if you need help with stomach acid, I mentioned adding apple cider vinegar. You can test this if your stomach is not, if you don't have an ulcer, a known ulcer. And if you do take the apple cider vinegar and you feel more of an increased burning, you can follow that with baking soda and water to calm that down. Maybe apple cider vinegar is not for you, but for many people it is. And if you don't like it in liquid form, I understand there are capsules too. ACL guard or some form of betaine hydrochloride to help your stomach acid work better. And then you have digestive enzymes to help break down the fiber, because sometimes we need some help. And probiotics. I do want to make a point that not all probiotics are best for you. We have there is actually ideal proportions of certain types of bacteria in your gut for optimal gut health. And so downing a whole bunch of probiotics just because they have 25, 50 billion, colony forming units, it doesn't mean it's good for you. You could be actually overly populating certain species and underpopulating others. So it's it's important to find the right probiotics for you. And then prebiotics, right? We have these bacteria in our gut, but they need to eat. And so how do we feed them? With functional fibers like root vegetables, apples, berries, and bananas, legumes, seeds, mushrooms, and many other yummy foods. There's, anything that's a fiber would probably be beneficial to feed your gut bacteria. And then there are other products that will help if you have a hard time consuming those things in your diet. So we went over what symptoms are not normal. Constipation. If you're experiencing constipation, diarrhea, bloating, acid reflux, heartburn, or nausea, that's not normal. And that's an indication that something is, needs to be corrected and could result in more serious illness. Like these things: allergies, cancer, diabetes, eczema, kidney disease, autoimmune diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and multiple sclerosis. But I just want to leave you with the fact that the human body is resilient. Merriam-Webster defines resilience as tending to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. Just because we experience some of these symptoms or even these illnesses, it doesn't mean that our body cannot restore itself. And I believe it can. Okay, I think that's it for me. Thank you,
That was
everybody.
so awesome. If you guys found value in Debbie's talk, can you please unmute and let's give her a big round of applause for joining us today.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Debbie.
Oh,
Thank
you.
you.
Great
Thanks for
conference.
coming.
Thank you.
We have some time, gang. So now's the time to ask questions with, real time with the real life experts. So anybody have questions right off the bat?
I do.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, Kim.
Hi.
Kim.
Hi, Debbie.
Hello.
Thank you so much. Gosh, I had no idea about all of this. So my question to you is, when I bend over, that's when I get heartburn or acid reflux. And it's usually been like I've had a couple of cups of coffee on an empty stomach and stuff like that. Anyway.
Okay. So the causes, I can send through Leanne a whole bunch of causes. Some people have a weaker valve above their stomach. It's called the lower esophageal sphincter. And that opens up when it should stay closed. That's a possibility. There are things you can do for that. The other thing is when your stomach reaches a certain acidity, that's when the valve beneath your stomach, on the bottom of your stomach, opens up to release the contents. And so you want that, once you're done consuming something, you want that to start to open up so that it relieves the pressure of things coming back up. So I'm not sure. I wouldn't recommend doing any scope to find that out. It's kind of like a trial and error, because once you invade that space, you could actually cause more damage to that sphincter.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so I would, yeah, I'm not quite there, but it's happened more as I've gotten older. It hasn't always been that way.
There's some information that I can pass on through Leanne about that.
Thank you.
The mechanical things of that, I'm really, that's not exactly my focus, but I do have contacts, and I do have other, partners and practitioners that do focus on those kinds of things. And I'll reach out to them to see if there's other suggestions that they have. I know there are actually some exercises that can be done if you're open to it to help to strengthen that.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, if you could let me know. So Debbie, you don't think it's a correlation with her coffee on an empty stomach then?
Well, I didn't want to say that because I like to drink coffee too, but and coffee is acidic, right? I mean, we could say a whole bunch of things. Don't drink coffee, don't bend over, don't
Yeah, right. Eat air.
right. Stay upright for half an hour after you drink your coffee.
Yeah, it does sound more like mechanical, like you said, or musculature.
Yeah,
She's bending over.
yeah. It's difficult to say exactly what it is. We just have to try certain things and rule things out, right? But an easy way to find out is to have a coffee, maybe with some food, and see if that makes a difference.
Oh.
Okay, I'll give that a whirl. Tums, if I eat a couple of Tums, it goes away.
Oh. Should she do that, Debbie? Eat Tums?
That I would caution overuse of antacids because, well, see, here's the deal, right? If you're using the Tum just to relieve that acidic feeling and you only have coffee in your stomach,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, but I wouldn't recommend that because I don't recommend the use of those kinds of things unless it's temporary. But the other thing is, if you don't have any food in your stomach, then you don't have any food going down that's undigested either. So, the Tums would prevent your stomach acid from breaking down food. But if you don't have any food in your stomach, I'm not sure that that's going to be a really bad thing. But I still wouldn't recommend the frequent use of antacids because they have other things in them that are not safe for you.
Got it. You have another question, Kim?
No, thank you very much.
Thanks, Kim.
Next question. Ask away. There's no such thing as a odd question. or you can put it in the chat. Gladys, you have any questions? Let's see where she at. I
I'm
know
here. I'm
Oh.
here. Yeah, I basically she for the great conference she gave. I recently had my diverticulitis episode, so I've been seeing a gastro and a nutritionist. So yeah, basically she like reinforced is what you say. What I've been told about the fiber, the daily fiber that I need to go need to go once a day mostly, then that will prevent my flares to come back. So drinking a lot of water, of course, and having my probiotics. So it's been good to hear it from her too, like more or less that I'm doing the right thing to prevent it to happen again. So
Do you
thank
have
you for that.
any thoughts on diverticulitis specifically by chance, Debbie?
Usually when you have symptoms in your gut already, it's often a sign that something is not functioning properly, that there's some kind of injury or assault. And so as you mentioned, going to the bathroom regularly, hydrating will help. And that can help to relieve the symptoms and actually also help to heal, right? But sometimes things are a little bit more serious. I'm trying to think of what I could recommend that's easy to do that will help you heal faster. But definitely diverticulitis.
Is it like leaky gut? It's just getting into pockets, right? Is it in the bloodstream and then it's getting into the pockets?
Yeah, and it's causing some inflammation and pain, right? That's why it's really important to go on a regular basis, right? To move that system, because all kinds of dangers or harmful things can happen if your body's if you're not having a bowel movement every day. That mechanics. There's more than just getting rid of toxins that happens in your gut when you go to the bathroom. There's a detoxification that's also occurring. That's really important. So
Goddess has a pretty high, stressful, constant, like lots of work all the time. Too.
Mhm.
So you
Yep.
want to speak to that? You want to speak to her about that?
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah. I know, we live in a stress-filled world, and we don't see any other way around it sometimes, but in doing what I've been doing, I know that my clients, and I hope this is not too negative for you, but my clients that don't handle their stress have an extremely difficult time healing.
Yeah, gang. I mean, that was me. And that's why I'm talking to y'all about the gut now. Okay. I reached the end of the road. So don't be proactive. Be proactive.
Yeah. It's almost like stress is the first thing that has to go, and it's not no stress. It's minimizing it. At least when you're eating, make sure that you're calm and give yourself some time to relax during the day, right? You can go when you've got to do that, but you also have to stop a little bit and let your body recharge and recover. And sleep is extremely important. You need to make sure that you're getting a really good night's sleep.
Gladys, you on any meds still right now, or you go good?
No meds right now.
good.
Just having my probiotic and trying to chew my food very well. That was one thing the nutritionist stressed out. And I actually realized that I was choking down my food.
Me
Like
too.
I eat in the car, between the office visits. So I said, oh my God, I need to stop to doing this. So yeah, I'm working with that too now. And of course,
Good.
having my fiber and my water intake. So yeah, I'm feeling
Good.
better. Thank you.
I would even recommend, since you mentioned that the chewing thing, digestive enzymes. If you can find a good digestive, I've seen some at Whole Foods, some comprehensive or full spectrum digestive enzymes that will help you.
Yeah, and is that like comes in a pill or a capsule or something, or is it?
They come in capsules, but for most of them can be sprinkled on food. So if you
Okay.
don't like to take capsules, you can do that by sprinkling it on your food.
Gladys, you guys
And
have
the-
foods over there? Sorry, I have no
Mm-mm.
idea.
Nope, unfortunately, we don't.
Oh, okay. Gladys is in Puerto Rico.
Walmart, yes, we have a Walmarts and some local supermarkets.
I'll
Walmart might
get a,
have some, because Walmart has a pharmacy, right?
maybe I'll get like a off the
So-
counter recommendation from Debbie and I'll forward you that, Gladys.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Cool. Any other questions?
I have a quick question
Go
for
ahead,
Debbie. It's actually
Kristen.
about probiotics, and you mentioned earlier, right, that probiotics, you need to find the right one for you. But how do you go about doing that, I guess?
Well, the best way is to get tested.
And
But
what does that entail?
it's a stool test. So it's an at-home test. You take some of your stool and put it in a vial, and a lab will analyze what species you actually have in your gut. And it tells a lot of things, because it tells you what the good guys, what you actually have there, how much of it you have, as well as whether or not there's something in there that shouldn't be, or if they're in higher numbers. It's very common to see bacterial infections in a lot of folks in a space where you're not symptomatic yet, but it's getting to a point where it might be if you don't make any changes. So yeah, we run those kinds of tests.
Okay, thank you.
So I did that test with Debbie and I'm not symptomatic. I mean, I haven't felt better than the day before they took my colon out. So I was like, yeah, let's take it. Nah, Debbie had to force me because I was like, I feel good, man. And then I took it and I was so surprised that my gut health is very poor, gang. So it just was affirming to me like what goes on, right? You don't always see it right away. And I think back to how my journey started with colitis and how you're not symptomatic and then you have some symptoms and then they linger and then you kind of like, this is normal. And then it kind of manifests into something bigger. So that's what I like about Debbie and why I decided to start partnering with her, because in both of our journeys, we've tried so many different types of protocol in terms of like either, holistic therapy, alternative therapies. It's always a guessing game. I like the fact that Debbie uses her testing. There's always a testing methodology, right? Your poop, your urine, your blood doesn't lie. So it's you give her the test comes as what it is, and it is what it is. And that is, to me, is like as customized as you can get, right? What I was worried about for Krislin is I know Krislin has insomnia. So sleep has been a lifelong thing that she hasn't been able to do you have any kind of recommendations with that, Debbie, by chance?
I'm good. I don't know if it's safe to assume that she's tried many different things, right? They talk about hacking your sleep, making sure you're off screens and making sure you don't have anything stimulating before bed, and you go to bed at a certain time, and then it's cool, and even nutrition can have an impact on that. Not falling asleep, not falling asleep. It's why, right? I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, so I can't go into that kind of part, but physiologically, often people can't fall asleep because they have racing thoughts or something's going on in their mind. We can't shut it down. If the body is just not sleeping, then there should be a physiological reason why that's not happening. And so,
Is it falling asleep or staying asleep or both?
It's a little bit of both, but I also have like joint pain, right? So a lot of it is my joint pain at night. So that probably plays into why I can't sleep too. It's not like racing thoughts and things like that. It's
Or chronic?
and I've done a sleep
pain?
and I've done a sleep test and I've done lots and lots and lots of things, but
I have a client who has severe pain. She actually had to take prednisone because she couldn't sleep. And we have worked on her gut, and she's seen improvements
In sleep?
in sleep and the pain reduction. It's not something that we fix overnight. It
Yeah.
takes some time. And she's also working with a therapist because there are many factors that can cause joint pain. It could be related to arthritis, or it could be related to a neuralgia of some sort, or very, very many different things that can cause pain in the body. Emotions can cause pain in the body. Traumatic events can cause pain in the body. And so it's identifying what that is and start to remove those things. And so that's what the process that she's working on right now. And so she's gotten to a point where she's able to get off the medication. She still has a little bit of pain, but it's tolerable and she can still sleep, right? She might get 5 hours of sleep before she feels a little uncomfortable, but it's a lot more than getting up every 2 hours in excruciating pain. So there's an improvement, but we're not done yet. And we've been working together for 3-4 months now. So, she's happy that she's seeing improvement and she's doing the work. She has modified her diet here and there, and she's been conscientious about, deliberate about how she, when she's going to go to sleep and what she's thinking about, and how she's moving her body to make sure she's moving it during the day. So
I'm
yeah.
wondering if they do the NES, the scan, the voice scan, if that would be an at least a initial first picture of what's going on.
Well, that would be my first choice because it's easy and it provides a lot of information as to where the blocks in the body are.
Gang, I'll send you that information later. It's basically a health voice scan. There's a whole science and video about that. I've done it with Debbie. I've talked with a few of you about it, and yeah, it's pretty trippy. But again, that's kind of a whole nother masterclass. But any other questions before we wrap up? No? Well, gang, you know where to reach me. You guys can always ask me the questions and I can funnel them to Debbie, or you can, Debbie does discovery calls and consultations. So I always have her information. She's a current client of mine. She meets with me for training and we do some business coaching. So thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
thank you, Debbie. Appreciate
rest of
it.
the week
Welcome.
and take care. Bye. Tim, I'll see you right after this, okay?
Bye-bye.
Let me stop recording so that can be